Aloha everyone, and welcome back to my audio blog. Well, I got a few more questions, so I figured I would continue with the blog. Oh, that reminds me, by the way. In order for me to do this, at least in the format that I'm wanting to do it in, you're going to need to send me questions. So please send me questions. I really would appreciate that. That will give me some things to answer. And you can send them directly to my email. Pops up on the screen every once in a while if you're able to see it. If not, it's Matthew, Matthew, at Kona, Kona, .edu. So make sure you send me some questions. And, having a really good day today. Got back home from Australia and kind of settling in, getting things done. It's a day off today. Skylar and Ethan had their science fair at school yesterday, so my two kids, we went down there, Sumi and I, to go see the kids have their science fair, and Skylar did a shell collection, so it was really neat, and Ethan did aquaponics. He's in 6th grade doing aquaponics. I don't remember doing aquaponics for 6th grade, but anyway. All right, let's jump right into it. Got some fabulous questions here. Got a couple that I think I'll be able to get through today. And let's see, here's the first one. It says, "Hi Matt, how are you doing? I'm excited for Huna in March." Me too. I'm really excited for Huna. It's our 44th Huna workshop, so looking forward to that. "I have a question related to enforcing boundaries. Can you help me figure out how far to go to enforce a boundary? Around the time that I took a previous training, I really didn't enforce boundaries at all. And now I'm learning to balance the energy in the boundary enforcing equation." Very cool. Very good. Yeah, a lot of people come to the trainings and they don't really understand the importance of enforcing your boundaries. Now, for those of you that are new to this blog or haven't taken a training with me before, the word enforce doesn't mean anything negative or positive. It means just knowing what is a boundary in your life. And I always say that you need to enforce your boundaries from your heart. And when you enforce your boundaries from anger or sadness, fear, or guilt, it really puts an energy into your boundary, and then it can magnetize these things to come back to you. So keep in mind that when I talk about enforcing boundaries, it's always from your heart with what we would say here in Hawaii, with aloha. So let's see. So let me continue with the email. "I have noticed a pattern where I may go 50% or 80% of where I could go to enforce a boundary and then choose to stop, as the energy going in has pretty much come close to what I would receive with the boundary entirely enforced." I guess that means that he gets to a certain point and he feels good about the energy being enforced. Okay. "I've done a variety of different release techniques, parts integration, trust my gut on each occasion, though is there some way to go about this at a higher level? I'm looking to understand how perception is projection fits in with enforcing boundaries. In other words, if I have to enforce a boundary, doesn't that mean that there's something within me promoting it, so that may be needed to be released? I'm a little confused in a good way. Thanks and aloha." Well, of course, first of all, you're welcome. And again, I love getting questions, so I really do appreciate this question. Thank you so much. Here's the easiest answer. Let's tackle the perception as projection first. And keep in mind, I could take up an entire audio blog with perception as projection. So let's keep it really simple. Perception as projection is the idea that what you perceive outside of you is actually more of a projection of what is inside. In other words, how we experience our universe around us, we actually carry inside, and our experience of that universe outside of us is occurring in our mind. It's occurring in our brain. That's the easiest way to understand perception as projection. What some people get confused with is that if perception is projection, then that means that enforcing a boundary must be some problem that I have inside. But listen carefully, there are good boundaries to have. So, for example, I have to teach my children boundaries. Skylar, we're about to cross the street to go to Hula. I said this to her on Tuesday. We're going to Hula and we're going to cross the street. Look both ways. There are cars coming. That's a boundary. That if you step out in front of a moving vehicle, most likely that moving vehicle is going to win. That's a boundary that we all learn as a kid. And I had a person raise their hand in a training one time and say, well, I met people that knew swamis in India that talked of people that could transcend and move through objects. Okay, good. For the other 99.9% of us on the planet, here's the deal. That's a boundary. That's a boundary that is a healthy boundary. There's nothing to release there. So the easiest way to know, is there some baggage that is there a baggage that you carry inside? Is there some sort of negative emotion or limiting decision that you need to tackle first? When the boundary needs to be enforced, do you have any anger? Do you have any sadness, fear, guilt? Do you feel limited in some way where you shouldn't be limited and other people are not limited? So, for example, if in a relationship, every time someone talks to you a certain way, you feel sadness coming up and you feel like you need to enforce your boundary. Hey, don't talk to me that way. Well, that's the sadness talking. That's the negative emotion talking. Now, negative emotions aren't bad or good. Sadness may be a clue that something's going wrong in the relationship. In that instance, though, what I would say is you need to release something first. You need to release some of the baggage first before you can begin to look at the enforcing of the boundaries. It all goes back to the 3 requisites for change that I teach in the NLP and in the HUNA trainings. There are 3 requisites for change. The first requisite is that you do any release work that you need to do, so the baggage is gone. The second one, it's not the second requisite, but the second part of the first requisite for change is that you have a clear goal. So you let go of what you need to let go of, you know where you're going. The second requisite for change is that you take action, and taking action includes enforcing your boundaries. However, you enforce your boundaries with aloha. So, for example, let's see. Okay, so let's take relationships and health and fitness. So I have a boundary, which is that I want to be able to work out a certain time of the day. Now that may not sound like a boundary. When it occurs, though, I want to have the space to work out. So I just, from my heart, turn to my wife, Sumi, and say, I'm going to go work out. Will you please watch the kids right now and take care of anything that comes up? And the answer is sure. That's me enforcing a boundary. That's me taking action. Then if something happens while I'm working out, and okay, if it's an emergency, of course I'm going to do something. But let's say something happens while I'm working out and I only have 15 more minutes left. Well, then I'll simply enforce my boundary and I'll say to my kids or to my wife, just give me 15 more minutes and I'll be done. Now, of course, there's a give back energetically that when Sumi wants to go work out, when my wife wants to go work out, then of course I'm going to watch the kids, and I do. And I take care of any things that might come up, and I do my best to give her the space so that she's able to do the things that she wants to do. Now, if the kids come in while you're working out and you start screaming, "What the hell are you doing in here?" and you're freaking out, yeah, then there's something to release. So when you ask what is the higher level learning, I think that's the higher level learning. That boundaries are fine. Boundaries are good. Every night I like to get a good night's sleep. I like to get about, 7.5 hours of sleep. That's a boundary. That's something that I like to do. Have I met people that sleep less? Yes. Have I met people that sleep more? Sure. That's a boundary. There's no anger, sadness, fear, or guilt. The 50 to 80% question, how far you go to enforce your boundaries, that is so contextual. It would be very difficult to answer that because basically it would be on a context by context basis. And so rather than looking at it as a percentage, look at it as the meaning of communication is the response you get. Go back to the NLP presupposition. And the NLP presupposition states that if you are communicating, here's me and I'm enforcing my boundary, then what you do is, as soon as it looks like the boundary is enforced and you've done it with aloha and you're flat on it, then you're done. Then that's enough. And never mind whether it's 50 or 80%, just, hey, I got the result that I wanted. That's perfect. Fabulous. So I hope that answers the question. Oh, by the way, for those of you that are hanging out for the third requisite for change, the third requisite for change is focus. So that is, once you're enforcing your boundaries and you're taking action, then what you need to do is you need to focus on what you want. Okay. I think I have time for one more question. Yeah, I'm going to go about 15 minutes today. So one more question. Welcome back from Sydney. Why, thank you very much. I had a fabulous time down there. And the email goes on to say, I was wondering if you could help me get a better understanding about a situation that keeps reoccurring. Basically, let me just get the gist of this email here. Basically, what's happening is it's like as if you're talking to a person, and yet you're only talking to them energetically. They're not actually there. No hallucination. No, no, how do you say, psychotic problem here going on. Just literally, it's like you shut your eyes and you're having a conversation with a person, or maybe even your eyes open. And, the more you do energy work, I think the more that can happen. And the more you do Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian forgiveness process that I teach. And I know a lot of you, especially those of you who are my students, you probably practice Ho'oponopono on a regular basis. Well, you're basically having a conscious conversation. You're having a conversation with that person while they're on the stage. You may only be saying to them, please forgive me, I forgive you. But I think that's okay, because what that means is that you are talking with what you carry inside you. It goes back to this whole initial discussion of perception as projection. I will sometimes have conversations with people before I go have a conversation with them. You can kind of think of it as practicing. So if I'm going to go do a meeting, if I'm going to go do a meeting with an employee in the office, what I might sometimes do is in my mind run through having that conversation. And there are points where I'm running through it where it will feel as if it's real. And sometimes I've done it to the level where I can feel a level of energy going on that you get there and you're almost thinking, I've already had this conversation. And it's called practicing. Practice makes perfect. There's a reason why people say practice makes perfect. And so to me, it's okay to have these conversations. There's no right or wrong with it. I suppose if you're doing it out loud in front of a group, that may be a problem. But besides that, you may be actually having a conscious conversation with that person. You may be talking to that aspect inside of you that represents that person. And maybe it's for you to resolve something with that individual. One of the ways you can test to see if that other person is experiencing the energy is talk to them afterwards. See if they've had any energetic experience, if they've had any energetic feedback, if you would, from you having that conversation. If not, what I would say is it's just you working out something that you need to work out with some of your perceptions, some of your projections. That's all. So anyway, I hope that answers that question. And again, thank you all very much. Thank you so much for all of the emails and the support. I hope that this blog really does help to get some of these answers out there for all of you. And so far I've been getting questions from some of my more advanced students. The questions are open to anyone, and new questions of people who've never taken trainings, any of these. I'm going to do my best to tackle all of the questions that I can here, because I really do enjoy what I do. And I think this will be an easy way for me to keep in contact with you guys, in addition to all of the other things that I do. But this will be a fun way for me to kind of keep up with the questions and keep in contact. So anyway, thank you all again very much. Please send me some more questions. Send me some more questions. Get that email address, matthew@kona.edu, and send me more questions. Send me more questions when you can. Alrighty, take care. Aloha, a hui hou.